Hey guys, welcome back. So today I'm doing the next video in my high-end versus affordable. So a couple of weeks ago, last week, whenever it went up, I did my concealer, the Maybelline versus NARS, and today I'm going to be doing the battle of the makeup sponges. So obviously the high-end one is going to be the Beauty Blender. And then the drugstore version I am going to be comparing it to, which is my favourite and the one that I use the most, is the Chi Chi makeup sponge. Now Chi Chi is an Australian makeup brand. This sponge is available in Maya, which is one of our big department stores. It's also available in Target, online, probably several other places, but that tends to be where I shop. Okay, so let's first start off with price, because that is the definition of high-end versus affordable. So the actual Beauty Blender, now when I went to buy it, I could not get it on its own. I couldn't buy a single. I couldn't even just buy it with the ring. It was sold out in Sephora completely. This is all they had left, but it's a pretty good little pack. So the actual Beauty Blender to buy in Australia is $30. I think it's 20 American dollars, but in Australia it's 30 Australian dollars. Now this pack was $64. I've worked it out, it's got about $75 worth of product in there, so it is quite good value for money. Now the Chi Chi makeup sponge, I bought this pack of 4 makeup sponges for 15 Australian dollars. So individually to buy they're $5.95, but when you buy it in a pack, the makeup sponge individually they work out to be $3.75 each. So there is a huge difference in price. Now let's talk about ingredients and manufacturing. So the Beauty Blender is manufactured and made solely in the US, whereas the Chi Chi makeup sponge is made in China. Ingredients wise, they're both completely made out of polyurethane foam. The only difference I found is Beauty Blender, it is a hydrophilic polyurethane foam. So the word hydrophilic, which is the only difference in the two ingredients list, basically it means it has a strong affinity with water, which means that it absorbs water like crazy. It's really ridiculously absorbent. They're both latex free, which is great if you have a latex allergy. They're both totally safe for you. Now let's open them up and have a look and compare them. Now this little pack is actually so cute. You're getting the Beauty Blender, brand new, unused. Little storage ring, which is actually super cute, and you can keep your Beauty Blender in it, which keeps it nice and clean and off your bench top, and it dries and it's very cute. And then you're getting a cleanser, an eeny meeny teeny little concealer Beauty Blender. I've never actually used one of these before, but when I saw it in the pack I thought, well, I'll definitely use it because it's really good for under the under eyes. And the other products you get in the pack is the Beauty Blender Reactivator. So the girl in Sephora told me this is for when you're traveling, and if you want to take your Beauty Blender out with you, but obviously when it's dry they're pretty hard to use. So she says you spray this on the Beauty Blender, it reactivates it, so it kind of dampens it again and fills it back up again and makes it swell up again, so it's safe to use on top of your makeup. Now the Chi Chi, it comes with 4 different sponges. They're all completely different in shape. None of them are exactly the same as the actual Beauty Blender. The nearest was probably this one, but see how it's got that little bulge in the middle? I'm not really sure what that's for. And then it has this one here, which again has a little indent in the middle. It has the one with the flat side, which is very similar to the Real Techniques one, and then the point. And then it has this little one with a little flat side here. So all 4 different shapes. I suppose it depends on what you like to use. Now I'm gonna use this one because this is probably the nearest in shape to the Beauty Blender, so that's the one I'm going to be comparing today. So first of all, let's look at the different size. So the Chi Chi sponge is definitely a lot bigger than the Beauty Blender. That's the Beauty Blender, that's the Chi Chi sponge. Feeling wise, they feel exactly the same. I can't really feel the difference. If anything, that one's a little bit smoother. Okay, so I'm going to go and fill them both up. I'm going to go and wet them both, and then we'll see what happens to this size. Okay, so I've been and wet them both, and they have grown to be pretty much the exact same size. They have both grown, but obviously the Beauty Blender has grown a lot more because now it's like the exact same size as the Chi Chi sponge. So what that tells me is that this one's a lot more absorbent, so it swells up a lot more, which is probably why it has that hydrophilic in the ingredients title. They feel pretty much the same. If anything, the Chi Chi one feels a bit more dense. That one feels very kind of light and spongy, whereas that one just feels a little bit more dense. Okay, so I'm basically going to do one half of the face using one sponge, one half of the face using the other sponge. I'm going to prime first of all, and then I'm going to do my foundation. I'm going to be doing my concealer, and then I'm going to be applying my Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder with both sponges, just so we can see which one kind of does the better job, which one uses less ingredients, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I've put the equivalent to one pump on the back of my hand. This side I'm going to do with the Beauty Blender, so I'm going to start applying that now. So my Beauty Blender is still nice and damp. Okay, the Beauty Blender definitely, your product goes a long way with the Beauty Blender. Like, look, that was like one dab, did my whole face. So I'm just going to put a little bit more on, just to help layer the foundation a little bit. So it probably used about a half of the product I put out onto my hand. So half a pump of foundation has done that side of my face. Really, really easy to apply. It went on really, really smoothly. It hardly used any product. It hasn't really absorbed a lot of product. That's kind of surface foundation. Really smooth, really easily, not a problem. We all know Beauty Blenders work amazingly, so that one didn't do anything less than I thought it would. Okay, so let's do the Chi Chi sponge on the other side. So I'm going to use that leftover product that's on my hand. So like I said, it's about the same amount that I put on this side. I'm going to see if it'll go on this side as well. Okay, I can definitely feel the difference in application. This is so much heavier. The Beauty Blender is like very, very light and airy on the skin, whereas this is a lot heavier. Like, I can feel it kind of bouncing quite hard on the skin. So it's definitely a lot more dense. All gone. It's used that same amount of product just to do half of my face. So it definitely absorbs a lot more product. It kind of applies the same way. I didn't have any issues with application. It's just a bit heavier, and it's took all of that foundation just to do that one bit. Okie doke. So looking at them, you can see that one has definitely absorbed a lot more product. You can see a big kind of glog of foundation stuck in it, whereas that one doesn't really have that. It tends to be more like surfacey. Now, application wise, they both felt really good. Like I said, if anything, that one was a little bit more heavier, whereas that one was a bit more lighter. Yeah, I can feel it. That is so like soft and really like gentle, and that one is like bleh, 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 like really patty. This is again one of those things, I've been using both of these sponges for ages, but I've never put them back to back against each other, so you don't realise this until you're using them together. Alright, so now we're going to do concealer. I'm going to be doing my Maybelline Instant Age Rewind under my eyes and my Maybelline Fit Me Concealer as a highlight. And then we're going to blend them both in and see how they perform. Okay, so again, Beauty Blender on this side. That felt good, easy, very smooth. The shape is actually really perfect for getting into the under eyes. For doing that inner corner, it's really, really easy. I don't have to like manipulate my face too much. So now the Chi Chi sponge on the other side. God, this is so much heavier. That is so funny. Okay, the shape is a lot more harder to do the inner corner just because it's got a big fatter tip. It's not as narrow and light. You can totally feel the difference in the heaviness. That one to do the under eyes is so like heavy and really like you can really feel it on the skin, whereas that is just so light and soft and gentle. Okay, last test is the application of the Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder. So that picked up a lot of product very, very easily. Let's see this one. To be nitpicky, I'd probably say that one was a little bit harder to pick up the product. I had to kind of press a little bit harder to get it to pick up, whereas this one seemed to pick it up incredibly easily. Alright, let me dust off that bake. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and do the rest of my makeup. I've got another video to film, and then I'm going to come back and do an overall review. Obviously there's not going to be much difference in like longevity because it's not about the sponge, it's about the product I've been using. But I just want to give it like an hour, 2 hours just to kind of really settle into my skin, and then we'll come back, we'll do like an overall comparison review, and then we'll see which one comes out tops. So I'll see you very soon. Okay, so we are back for our final review of the makeup sponge. So having a look, everything looks exactly the same, nothing's changed. I didn't think it would. Overall, they've both applied and everything looks great and everything looks the same, and neither of them applied better than the other. They both look exactly the same. No one would have any idea that there is two different application products going on here. So let's do an overall final review of the products and we'll see which one wins. So like in my concealer one, I'm going to do it point based, so we'll see whichever one comes out with the most points wins. So this was the side with the Beauty Blender. That one was the side with the Chi Chi makeup sponge. First of all, let's talk about price point. So like I said, $30, $5.95. If you buy it in a pack of 4, it works out at $3.95. That one works out $30 no matter how you buy it. So price point, Chi Chi definitely hands down wins. It's a ridiculously cheaper product than the Beauty Blender. Ingredients wise, so they both are made from the polyurethane foam. The Beauty Blender had the hydrophilic word added to it, which meant it absorbed a lot more water and it worked a lot more better with water, and I agree. So when they both came out of the packaging, the Beauty Blender was a lot smaller than the Chi Chi sponge, and they've grown to be the same size, so this one definitely absorbs a lot more. Also ingredients wise, this one's made in the US, this one's made in China, which generally means this one's going to be slightly better quality. So for ingredients and quality wise, I'm definitely going to say the Beauty Blender wins out. Texture wise, when you kind of feel them, you don't really notice a difference until you fill them full of water. Obviously this one grows a lot bigger and it's a lot lighter and it's a lot softer. This one's quite dense and quite hard, and I noticed that during the application process. This one was very, very soft and almost pillow-like, patting the makeup into my face, whereas that one was a lot heavier and it was a lot more dense and you could really feel it. That one was definitely a lot more comfortable. So for texture-wise, again, I'm going to give the point to the Beauty Blender. Okay, last step is the application process. So I put a pump of foundation out onto the back of my hand. Half a pump was meant to be for that side, half a pump for this side. Half a pump definitely went a long way with the Beauty Blender. Now with the Chi Chi sponge, the half pump that was left on my hand, that only did this part of my face here, so I had to use double the product. If you're using a really expensive foundation, like $100 foundation, this is going to cost you $50 more to use than this one, just because it would use double the product, if that makes sense. They both worked really well. They both blended the product into the skin very seamlessly. If anything, like I said, that one was just a bit more softer and a bit more gentle, and it felt nicer on the face. With the concealer, obviously the tip of the Beauty Blender worked a lot better on the under eyes to get into those little nooks and crannies. This one's a little bit more clumsy, so it was quite hard to get right into the really small little areas. Powder wise, that one probably picked up a tiny little bit more powder than this did. Not a huge difference there. Powder's powder. I didn't really mind. I think that one would probably be easier for baking just because it put a lot more product onto the skin a lot quicker. That one you had to layer it a little bit. For application, again, I'm definitely going to give the point to Beauty Blender because it was just a much more nicer experience. Okay, so overall, the Beauty Blender definitely, I feel, wins. It's a much more beautiful experience. I think that's why they're so famous, and there's so many dupes out there that are a little bit cheaper, or a lot cheaper in this case, but you can really tell the quality, the application, the amount of foundation that you're wasting. I mean, I do tend to use expensive foundations like the Armani Luminous Silk, which is a $100 bottle. Foundations like that, and if I'm going to be wasting half of my bottle just to use a cheaper sponge, when you think about it, it all adds up, and really I do feel like the Beauty Blender is the better quality sponge. Overall, I had the experience-wise today, I really thought the Chi Chi sponge was going to win. I really did, because it's just such amazing value for money. But when you take everything into consideration, the Beauty Blender for me definitely wins. So I really hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any comments or questions or anything, please leave them down in the box below and I will definitely get back to you. I really hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, and I really hope to see you on the next video. Have a wonderful day and I'll see you very soon. Bye!